Hello, I'm Hava Volterra, and this is Kitchen Smarts. Emily is the founder and owner of Boichik Bagels, a California group that has been touted by the New York Times as the best bagels in the U.S. Boichik now has 11 locations and a bagel factory in Berkeley. And what's amazing is that Emily, who's a mechanical engineer in her background, started Boichik just 7 years ago, in late 2019, just before the COVID epidemic. Their expansion has been meteoric, with a lot more growth to come. Well, it's great to see you, and it's been a long time. I was actually trying
Yes,
to figure out how long, and I think somewhere early COVID. Is that true?
that might be. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely been a while. Yeah.
So are both part of a group called the Illuminati, and that's how we met. And I remember you had when we first met, I had just moved to Oakland working on parsley, and you were already in the process with Boichik.
Hmm.
And you had just leased, I think, the place for the Noah's Bagels place. But maybe
Okay.
I should
Yeah.
start with some background. So as I was saying, I met Emily a while ago. Actually, before the start of COVID is when we first met, and Emily was starting a bagel place. And that bagel place has grown into something like I'm in awe. I was just looking at where you've come. But 11 locations, am I right?
Wow.
12 now. Northern California, Southern
Yeah.
California, catering, frozen. You ship all over the US,
Yeah.
in stores near me because I now moved to the Santa Cruz area, but I see
Okay.
that I
Good.
can get Boichik all over. So that's quite an incredible success story.
Thank you.
And I do remember the early days. I remember when you were just trying to get the permits through to start your location. So please tell me.
Yeah, the beginning was the hardest part, I think.
I
But it's been quite a long road.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it as, oh, I just hope this is going to work for her, because you had put your savings into it and you were
Mhm.
planning on opening at a certain time. And I think you were using the original Noah's Bagel location.
Yeah, it is. It was the original. Yeah, I got so through the Illuminati, I was introduced to Noah and was granted a meeting with Noah Alper, who still lives in Berkeley. He's been retired for a long time, who
Okay.
started Noah's, and met with him. We had a nice chat. He was great. We spoke for a few hours, and a few months later, he called me up, and I was starting to look for a space, and he called me up. He said, "Corporate just closed my original store. It's a wonderful location. You should totally go look at it." So I went, and I'm like, I have to take it. This is going to be what it has. This is going to be it. And so I like to call it a historic bagel location. So it was the start of one bagel empire, and now it was the start of a second bagel empire.
As, indeed, indeed. That's actually what I was thinking just before we started recording. I was thinking, okay, this is the next Noah's. Look at the rate it's growing. It's
Yeah.
incredible. So it is really the next Noah's. Wow. So, and then I again, going back to those early days, so I remember you were telling me there are no good New York bagels on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, I was kind of nodding my head, but thinking, like, I don't actually know what a New York bagel is, but if she says so, okay. um, and after you opened the first location, I tried them and I realized that they're very good and they are different. So maybe tell us, well, first of all, what a New York bagel is.
Sure. So to me, a New York bagel, that's what I was raised on, growing up in New Jersey. But it's to me, that's like the definition of a true bagel. It's a super high gluten flour. It's dense. It's chewy. It's got a kind of a tough crust on the outside, but it's got to be boiled, and then it's got to be baked, and it really should be baked on a stone deck. Um, to get the right bottom crust. I care a lot about that bottom crust. So that's like the New York bagel, and then the Montreal style changed a bit, where it got a larger hole and like kind of a smaller um outer, thickness to it, and honey instead of barley malt syrup. So the flavor of the barley malt syrup really kind of brings in that the New York bagel character, and so Montreal kind of changed to honey. And then as there was the first great wave of bagels in the 80s and 90s, it got really kind of commoditized and cheapened, and people were skipping the malt extract and skipping a lot of the process that makes for an awesome bagel. So that really turned into what people like bemoan as, round bread with a hole in it that doesn't taste like bagel. It just kind of tastes like bread and vaguely looks like a bagel, but it's not a real bagel. So
Right.
that's what I wanted. I moved out here. I'm like, I want my bagel, and just started as an obsessive hobby, just playing with bagel recipes. And 5 years later, I had a fantastic bagel.
So, okay, so we were talking about that early period where you had Noah's Bagels location and you were setting up your first shop. And I want to go further back also, but let's just talk about that. And you had a certain amount of savings set aside for it, and the permits were not going through. I just remember that one thing after the other. Tell me a little bit about it.
Um, yeah, it was way harder than I expected. I also had this architect I hired, and I asked him initially, like, how long is this going to take? He's like, oh, probably like 4 months, and that, we'll be done in 4 months. Um, and then the city wound up being really difficult for us. So it's a 2-story building. There's an office directly above the shop. But but Noah's was always a steam bagel, so it was kind of not a real New York bagel technically from the get-go, where he used a rack oven and they would steam it, so they weren't boiled. They were steamed and baked on sheet trays in a rack oven. So there was a rack oven in there, and not a kettle, and not a deck oven. So the first thing I'm like, well, like, it was a real shame. It was the original 30-year-old revent rack oven that was still sitting there. I'm like, it's a shame, but I had to get it out of there. And I'm like, I need to put in, I've studied New York bagels. I need the revolving deck, the old school revolving deck oven. I need the 40-gallon kettle. I need all of these things. And the architect's like, oh, no, it's no problem. We just hook it up to the old venting that was from the previous oven.
Right.
And that's fine. And then the city just ripped that to shreds repeatedly. And they were like, no. And then, like, we actually needed to change. So there was like a change of like an inch diameter of the vent. And then the city said that the whole like perimeter of the vent, it wasn't like insulated properly, and it wasn't up to current code, even though it had been to code 30 years ago. But now that we're changing it, now we had to, so we had to redo the whole venting system like twice. It was not fun and costly, and just everything was new, and everything was scary. And I really had no idea. And the architect I hired because he seemed on the cheap side. And I learned, although I've hired expensive people since then, there's never a guarantee. But he didn't know nearly as much as, like, it would have been nice to have someone know. It was just a whole lot of, I don't know. It was hard. It was hard. There were a lot of tears involved. There was, um, yeah, it was rough. And it just, yeah, it took forever. And just like reviewing the permits, takes forever. And then just getting feedback on things and getting stuff done and getting them to come look. And like, our building inspector was really tough, and kept, yeah, wanting things differently. Even things that he had said to do, then he came back and kind of changed his mind. So yeah, that was the worst. And it was really, I was, very much all alone in this.
Yeah.
So, um, it was, yeah, it was a hard hard place for a long time. And then we finally got it open, and it was just like hallelujah. And actually I was also getting terrified because we were getting, like, at some point my landlord started making me pay rent, and then the money was like really dwindling fast. Um and then I was like really concerned because I didn't get to put in, we didn't get to like turn the equipment on until like the project was almost done. It took like forever before we even got to the point of like, we finally installed the oven, we installed these things, get the gas hooked up. That was a whole, it was so we got that. And I was really terrified that we were like, I'm like, okay, we're going to get this stuff. Now I'm going to have to spend like 3 to 6 months dialing the bagel in. Like, I don't know, cause I don't know. I'd only been making bagels in my home kitchen up until this point. So like I'd never, made it happen on serious bagel equipment. So I had no idea. And so I made like this first test batch, and it came out okay. And I was like, oh, hallelujah. Like it's going to be okay. Cause I was so terrified. I'm like, what if there was some magic in my home kitchen and I can't replicate it, and I can't figure out how to make the same bagel here, and I've poured all this money into it. Now I'm stuck. So that was a huge, huge fear I had. And fortunately, that one was, extinguished pretty quickly as soon as I got everything working.
So tell everyone about your background, because you don't come from a culinary background, right?
No, I have
Engineering.
zero culinary background. I'm a good eater. I'm a mechanical engineer. Um, so yeah, I'm just coming from a totally different place. I like problem solving. So I like figuring things out. I like making stuff. Um, and I was for 5 years. I wanted to make my bagel for myself. It was, sorry, my parrot is, I have a parrot who's
It's a
getting very
comment.
excited, who's normally like sits and is like totally quiet and is now deciding to join in on a podcast. So it's, yeah, I just had zero. So I was really, it was really crazy. And my initial plan was, I was like, okay, I actually had my best friend who does have a culinary background was going to come in and kind of be my partner. But then he flaked out. Basically not too long after I signed the lease, which was really
Okay.
terrifying. But probably for the best in the long run. And, I'm just like, I have no idea. No, it was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I can barely make a bagel, but this feels like I want to do it. Like this feels like it needs to be done. And I don't know why. I'm like for ex New Yorkers living in the Bay Area, at least I would meet an ex New Yorker here, and would be like, oh, you're from New York, from somewhere. It's like, oh, there's no good bagels here. That was like the first, bonding statement. And then the second one is, and there's no good pizza. So that's how we would like, bond as ex East Coasters. So that was real, and people have been claiming that they've been trying to solve this for decades and decades, and no one's done it, and everyone said, oh, it's the water, and no one's been able to figure it out. So I'm like, I don't know how I've been the one to figure it out, is I have, I'm coming from no food background. The food background I kind of do have, which is also super weird and not chefy at all, but my father is a food chemist. He does all this consulting work. So I grew up with him in this, another like science
Okay.
view on food. And he would do all kinds of wacky stuff. So he'd bring me around. He'd bring me to visit various food companies, and I'd see their production. It was, production, not restaurant. So I'd go visit all kinds of factories. And I loved seeing the machinery. And he would do things like he'd have like shelf life testing, and he would come home, and it was, me, my family, my mom and my two sisters, and be like, okay, like, okay, family, it's like afternoon, it's like, all right, we have to do this taste test. We were all like forced labor into this thing. Be like, okay, everyone
This
has a little
month-old piece of food. Is it still?
Yeah, here's this really questionable thing. Here's this cracker that's like a year and a half old. Now taste it, and like, is it okay? Is it bad? Is it really bad? Is it just a little, like, we're going to parse it? Is it, what are the flavors you're getting? All these things. So I was trained to do that from childhood, to like analyze food in this critical manner that way and think about it. So when I started playing with bagel recipes, that was just very natural to me to be like, okay, I'm sniffing the bagel, I'm gonna lick the bagel, I'm gonna do all these things. And I started having some friend groups, and I would go and then show up with my new batch of bagels and be like, okay, now taste these. And I'd even do like A, B, and C, because I could only make 12 bagels worth of dough in my KitchenAid mixer at a time. So I would do like an A, B, and C batch. Um, and then like I'd keep them separate, and I'd, have some variable that was changing between them. And I'd then bring them to my friends. I'm like, okay, now here's A, B, and C, and we're gonna sniff them, we're gonna taste them, we're gonna think about them, we're gonna, discuss and what do we think? How do we think these compare to each other? How do you think this compares to the ones I made 3 weeks ago? Do you like this better or worse? So we just had this ongoing thing, that it was just this very slow iterative process. And there was no business plan attached to it. For the longest time, it was just purely a hobby. So I wasn't like, I have to find this recipe so I can launch my bagel business. It was just this every so often I'd be like, all right, I'll make some more. I'm going to, what am I going to try this time in changing the recipe? And, I'll bring it in. I would make it if there was like a potluck party, or if there was, some reason, or I just was bored and I felt like making some more bagels. Yeah. So it wasn't really until I got the bagel great, and then some friends were like, you should totally be selling these. They're so good. And that's when I was like, well, maybe I'll look into that, and I'll launch it as a pop-up, because that'll be fun. It was all just kind of, I'm like, this will be like a pretend, make my own MBA sort of thing if I just look into this as a pop-up business. And the Bay Area is great for food entrepreneurship. So I found all kinds of great resources and classes happening. And yeah, one thing just led to another very quickly. And I got my cottage food license and launched at the Eat Real Festival in 2017. And people went nuts. And yeah, wound up getting the spot at Noah's. And after it took a year and a half from getting the permits to getting that open. And I was like the laughing stock of the neighborhood, because people would come along. They're like, how long does it take to turn a bagel shop into a bagel shop? And I'm like, I know, like,
I mean, I remember that period so well, and honestly, I wasn't sure. I like, oh, I hope this works. And then it took off like a rocket. Um, but you know what? So back to what you're talking about with developing the bagel. So I really had that impression, because I'm an engineer too, that you took a very
Okay.
engineering approach, that this is a product and you are going to perfect it and you're going to figure out the process to make it. And that is really the way engineers look at things. I mean, because there's a creative element in both. Um, so what when I then was watching, because I followed vicariously, you introduced various sandwiches and salads and cream cheese flavors, which took you to a different realm. And I was wondering, like, how did you do that? How did you branch out into that as well?
Well, so my very initial plan when I decided to go from pop-up to make it real was that I'm like, I have no restaurant experience. I don't know. So I'll basically make it like a production. I'm just going to do bagel production, and we'll just have, I was thinking it could all just be delivery. People could just sign up and we'd have like doorstep delivery of fresh bagels on the weekends. And I wasn't sure what would happen on the weekdays, but it was still very early in this process. So I was like, okay, we'll just make bagels, and maybe we'll have like, containers of Philly and half gallons of OJ, and the Sunday New York Times that can be delivered to your doorstep, and that'll be really cute.
Yeah.
So that was the original plan. And then when the Noah's space came along, and it really just begged to be taken, and I, thought about it, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to take this, but if taking this space means it has to be a retail bagel shop. And, my mom is from Queens and my father's from the Bronx. And my mom would really tell me all these stories about, her early bagel memories where, in Queens, the bagel shop was just a bagel bakery. There's just guys making bagels, and that was it. So there's like baskets of bagels and nothing.
Right.
So you just get the bagels and go, and then you'd have to go to another store to get cream cheese and another place to get lox, and there's all these things. So there's just
Right.
bagels. That's it. And my memories of H&H on the Upper West Side were very close to that. They were like really known for being super old school. It was a little more. It was bags of bagels, cash only, but then they'd have like a cooler so you could pick up some like cream cheese and stuff out of the cooler, but they wouldn't slice it. They didn't make a sandwich. They didn't do anything. So that was my original plan. But when I got this retail spot, it's like, well, now this has to be a retail establishment and it's going to need things like cream cheese and fish. And like, if I have this, now what do I do with it? And people, especially in California, but really even on the East Coast now, people expect a bagel shop to not just sell just bagels in a bag, except now that there's been pop-up bagels, so they've kind of changed that paradigm, which is super interesting. But it really seemed like it was going to be tough to get people to only buy bagels in a bag. Like I could have, but with this spot, it really just begged to have stuff prepared and really to have, and I'm like, well, if I'm gonna do this, I like, how about I bring in like kind of a Russ and Daughters, vibe to it also. It's like, let's do cream cheese and fish and bring all these things that are kind of my childhood New York Jewish bagel memories and associated with it. The thing is, my dad, there are times that my dad brought me to New York and we'd go to H&H and get the bagels, and we'd cross the street and go to Zabar's and we'd get everything else. So there was the chive cream cheese, and we'd get kippered salmon and sable and lox and all this great stuff and bring it home.
I
So I'm
mean,
like, well,
that's
how
been
do I
my
put that together?
experience here also in LA when I lived in LA. The good bagel places. Yeah, you'd go and you get bagels. You'd get, two of these, two of that, two
Oh,
of the other.
okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I've been wondering if it's Noah's Bagels that introduced this idea that there should be sandwiches and
I don't know if Noah's came up with that in the first place. I think a lot of it in New York, it seems it got taken into like the kind of the bodega realm and the deli
hmm
realm,
hmm
where then it's kind of like a bagel shop. Yeah, a kind of bagel shop fused with deli in a lot of ways. And then chains like Noah's really kind of took it and went with it, with where you could be like, yeah, here's like a turkey sandwich. It's just on a bagel. And so there's a lot of that, and bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel. Um, so but now the issue is that now people really want that. They really love that and they expect it. And it's tough. It's actually been really surprising to me. So this is actually interesting that you say that and you're from LA, because we opened in LA and our sales of just bags of bagels are way lower than I thought. Like almost people are like just coming in and getting a sandwich made. Like they're
uh-huh.
not taking bagels home. And I'm like, well, that's so strange, because I would
Yeah.
expect that at least like the Jewish population or like the ex-New Yorkers, but it's like they've gotten totally out of the habit of doing that. And now everyone's like, no, just put the cream cheese and lox on the bagel for me and I'll eat it right now. I'm not going to take it home and make it myself. So it's kind of changed that way. And one of the things I'm wrestling with right now is, do we continue expanding the menu? If so, how, where are the lines? Or does that really turn into a whole separate concept if we're baking other food? Because people really, the American breakfast, when people want a bagel sandwich, they're really thinking, a hot kind of egg and cheese on a bagel. And we get a lot of grief for not doing that. Um, and it is tasty. So, but I'm like, well, this is a question, like, as we grow, it's an interesting thing, because not everyone wants cream cheese and lox all the time. It's
So, even there, just as a segue here, how did you figure out the recipes for these sandwiches, for these cream cheeses?
part of it. So I hired. basically a general manager who had restaurant experience, and actually he had even had bagel shop experience. So, and I didn't want to, we weren't trying to start with anything crazy. So it was like, there's chive, there's not a whole
Right.
lot, but he did a lot of that kind of early recipe development, and we really don't have. There's really not a lot. There's like a couple, basically cream cheese. You take your cream chease, you whip
You
it,
mix
and
it.
you mix some stuff in it, and it's
Yeah.
good. It's like
That's true.
that's pretty much it. Cream cheese is just a pretty tasty blank canvas.
Yeah.
And in terms of like the fish, I was getting fish from a whole bunch of different suppliers. I'm like, I want the best smoked fish I can get my hands on. So we actually do a lot of, I call it importing from New York of the smoked fish. Um, and then things like actually the tuna salad and the egg salad are basically very minorly modified from how my mother makes them
Right.
and I grew up with. So it's like just really super simple. It's basically best food / Hellman's mayo and, the tuna or eggs and like not a whole lot else. And I love it. So that was part of it. It's just like I'm just creating my own nostalgic flavor profile. So there really wasn't a lot of real recipes happening and a lot of things. It's like, butter, jam. We have an almond butter. It is
Right.
pretty, it is a
Right.
very small menu.
Right.
And I want people to I really want them to buy a bag of bagels and take them home and get a couple tubs of cream cheese and maybe a half a pound of lox. I want that. Um, and I love it when people do that.
And
But
that's
it's
happening more
limited
in
now.
Northern California than it is in Southern?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is. I don't know. I need to go reteach the Angelenos to buy a bag of bagels. I'm not sure what it is.
No, you're getting me thinking because our eating habits have also changed, I guess. That's part of it. Because I definitely used to get bags of bagels, and
Yeah,
now, yeah, I just have a little slice of bread and maybe it's age, I'm not really sure.
yeah.
Uh, that's interesting, but I going back again, I mean, I actually my roommates brought some of your bagels. That was the first time I had them, and they were really good. I thought that is good. So you don't know yet where you're going with that, like if you're gonna make an egg sandwich or not. I
I'm not.
mean,
I'm just kind of we're pondering the possibilities because I plan on keep growing the company. Um, I'm looking into there's some real possibilities for like how do I want to where do we want to go next? It's like this works. Where do we want to go with it? How exactly? Do I want to franchise it? Like it's a possibility. Like it's kind of like I've proven this out. We've got a great bagel. Like now what? So there's a lot of possibilities, and it's an interesting thing to try to puzzle through that. And then the logistics of distribution are a little tough because it's a frozen product. And we also don't have, I've got this 18,000 square foot factory in West Berkeley now, but it's not enough to like. And we're in like 8 local Whole Foods. Um, but like if Whole Foods called me tomorrow and said, "Hey, we want you in all like 500 stores nationwide starting,
yeah,
next month or something,"
yeah,
I would be in big trouble. I'm not sure because we don't have that capacity. And unlike a lot of food startups in the CPG space, we are not co-manufactured. We make our own product.
right.
And I feel very strongly about that because I don't feel like there's anyone who could make my product in their factory for me because I care. This like the process. There's so much in the process of bagels and the boiling and the baking on stone. And I've seen like I've gotten to see a couple Sara Lee bagel factories, which is fascinating for me,
Yeah.
and it's really interesting. It's like the way that was developed was to basically take as many shortcuts as possible. But it was interesting because I'm like I see what they're doing here, and but it's like it seems like I'm like I as an engineer, what gets me really excited is thinking about like how could I really like scale? Like I like the thoughts of scaling up are fun for me. So I'm like, how do we, grow? Like I would love to be in Whole Foods nationwide at some point, just not next month. But it's like, okay, to do that, I would need to build a larger facility, and then like, how could that be done efficiently and well and maintain the quality? And I'm like, I think it could be done, and that's like the puzzle I want to get to solve at some point, hopefully within the next 10 years, that we grow the demand, and we need to make that many bagels. And we can figure that, and I could pioneer the making of an artisan quality bagel at scale, which is in my opinion has never been done before.
I think that's right. I mean, I see this also in artisan quality prepared meals that people try to do at scale, in very large volumes and still keep the artisanal element. So you have the bagel factory in Berkeley. Does it supply all your locations or do you make them locally as well?
No, so the facility in Berkeley makes all of the dough for our Northern California.
Hmm.
So it makes all of the dough, and so that's the big thing that I've showcased is kind of the dough, our $500,000 dough line, automated dough line, which is really cool. But it makes all the dough. So then the stores that have, so some of our half of our stores have kettles and ovens. So in the afternoon, we take racks of this raw dough and we deliver it to those stores in the afternoon. It goes into their refrigerators, and then they bake it the next morning. And then we have some of what we would call outpost stores where we bake the bagels first thing in the morning here and then drive them over. So, like all of our San Francisco stores and
Hmm.
Larkspur, we are just dropping off the freshly baked bagels first thing in the
Hmm.
morning there. Um, LA is and then we're also making all the frozen CPG 6 packs that are going out for distribution and for supermarkets and whatnot. That's coming out of our Berkeley facility. So
Right.
then in LA, they're starting from scratch on their own. So they're starting from flour. We actually have they've got their own mixer. They've got my original bagel rolling machine. We
Right.
sent down there.
Yeah.
Um, so that's working. So they're making, and now they're a production hub, and they're supplying the second store. But what we're actually trying out there is where that was going to be an outpost. We were actually running it as a par bake, which is slightly different. So we're actually doing, this was a new plan. This was a big experiment I wanted to try, and it's been going great, where we par bake the bagels, stop the bake early, pull them out, let them cool, pack and freeze them, and then send those over. So their freezer is just stocked with these par baked bagels, and they are finished baking them as they need them. And
Hmm.
the cool thing is, it's like it saves, like it makes the logistics so much easier because we're not like, oh my God, we got to get the bagels there before they open, and there's a problem with the truck or there's
Yeah.
any kind of issue. It's always like super time dependent. We're just taking all of the time. So bagels are so annoyingly time sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is all they said, but like bagels are so awful. It's really like croissants. Sourdough. I'm so jealous of them. The other people around here who make like sourdough and things where it's good for days, and I'm like, oh, like that's so nice because a bagel has a half life of it's under a day. Like I say I only want to sell a bagel's only fresh for one day,
Yeah.
and then it's no longer fresh. So it presents a lot of problems that way. And we're making the dough the day before because we make the dough and we let it has a long cold ferment and proof overnight.
Yeah.
So it's like a 24-hour production. And then, you just have like, it's just a very tight window. So you can't like, make more in a hurry. Um, it's got a lot of problems, a lot of challenges that way. So with the par bake, it's just like magic because we just kind of freeze them and they're there, and then we can go from the freezer to hot in your hand in under 12 minutes. So it's kind of like almost just in time bagels, and we could kind of do just in time. So this is another engineering thing. I'm like, we're just like, it's cracking the annoying time problems of bagels. And we can actually do these in smaller batches and be serving them hotter and fresher throughout the day, and actually never running out early, never running out. If you wanted some flavor, if you come in like, 15 minutes before we close and say, hey, could I get 6 dozen everything bagels? We could be like, yep, wait 10 minutes and we will make that happen. You will walk out of here with a hot, steaming hot sack of bagels, which is incredible that we can't do in any other of our shops
Well,
at all.
what I was thinking here is often the solutions to culinary problems and other problems as well are constraints. So you had a constraint with
Mhm.
LA, which is that you couldn't ship them, I guess, from Berkeley. It didn't make sense. And that constraint brought you to something that seems to me like it could be the key to having much, much more locations because you can ship frozen all over.
That is exactly it.
Yeah.
We can now ship these frozen, and they're almost impossible to screw up
Yeah.
once they're in this state. So that opens the question and the possibility of doing something like franchising, because
Mhm.
you could be like, okay, you're going to buy these, we're going to tell you how to do them, but like it'd be different. Like I had people asking me for franchises for years, and I was like, we can't possibly franchise this because there's so many, like it's so sensitive, and it's like, the wind blows the wrong way and the bagels are, things are
Yeah.
different, and I don't trust. I'm just going to give you my recipe, and like you're not going to change the bagels dramatically, either ruin them inadvertently or intentionally change things, and like you want it to taste a little different in some other way. So with this, we're basically locking that bagel in, that you will not,
Yeah.
you can't not boil it, not bake it on stone. There's all these things. It's easy, and it's super easy to finish it off. You basically throw it on a sheet pan in any oven at all. I was doing them in my house. It was great. I'm like, it felt like the old days. I'm like, I'm baking at home. This is so exciting, very satisfying in my dinky do electric oven. And they came out great. They came out great. Um, so it's really exciting. Opens up a lot of exciting possibilities for us. So the question is then, okay, you know, now where do we want to go with this?
So, okay, you do you think you want to go to New York? I'm curious. Like,
It would be it would be cool. I feel like that would be, yeah, that wouldn't be anytime soon. It would be cool to show up just to be there. I wouldn't plan on making a serious I don't know. I don't think that would be a place of a serious business region for us, cuz the whole thing is that New York has good bagels. So they don't, if I never moved to California, I never would have done that. If I never moved away from New
right.
Jersey, I never would have done this, because there was always, decent, even though my very favorite bagel shop had gone out of business, there were still perfectly reasonable and perfectly acceptable bagels around. So yeah, this was all just born out of need. So I think it makes more sense to go where bagels are needed more urgently. And the cool thing now is I'm like, we could really go international. And I think that would be rad.
Yeah.
And because the thing is, now bagels have been spread around the world.
Yes.
Most of them are not good at all, but I have people reporting, they say they saw bagels in Asia. They're seeing, bagels are all over the place, but apparently most of them are of the round bread variety. So I think we have that opportunity to say, look, here's a serious New York style bagel that we can then have be serving across the globe, really.
It's interesting you say that because a customer of ours, and I actually didn't follow it, and I don't know how well it's working or if it's still working, but Tartine opened in Asia. They
Mhm.
opened in Japan, I think, with somewhat similar idea. Of course, those are Brits, those are not bagels, but um, at least originally it went very well. I don't know. I bring something up and I actually don't know the whole story there,
Mm.
but they were doing that. And I think they still are. Yeah,
Well, I look at Blue Bottle Coffee. They've been
that's
one of
true.
my kind of role models from the very beginning. It's like once upon a time, if we go back to like the 50s, where coffee was this commodity beverage that no one really got too deep into,
Hmm.
at least in America, it
Hmm.
was, just basic cup of coffee for, I don't know, 25 cents or whatever. And then cafe culture kind of took up, and Starbucks kind of made coffee this much bigger deal. And then Blue Bottle came along and like kind of brought it to a whole next level of very particular, very fancy. And they went, Bay Area, LA, New York,
Right.
Japan, South Korea. And I'm like, that's really cool. Like, I'd like that seems really rad. And that's a model that appeals to me. So, yeah.
They're also a customer of ours, actually. I hadn't thought
Okay.
about that. Not for the coffee, for their baked goods, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Okay. So, on a totally different subject, but something else that impressed me when you started Boichik was you also were right on the money or on the dot with social media. And I don't know if that was just viral because people liked your bagels so much that, or it was things that you were doing actively. I actually can't tell.
I don't know. There was nothing. There was not really there was no social media plan. I was just posting. Actually, I didn't even have Instagram until one of the classes I was taking. They're like, you have to be on your food business has to be on Instagram. I was just on Facebook with it originally.
Uh-huh.
Um, so that shows my age. So I had to be like coaxed to join Instagram. So I so I joined, and then I was just like, okay. What I was really doing was just kind of posting things from like the process of what I was doing. It's like, here I'm making bagels in the house, and here we're building the shop. And then building the shop took, forever and a day. So there was just a lot there. And I had gotten some really excellent press. And I had a MailChimp email list. I was sending emails out every so often. But I had a lot of people just got really excited it was really like the pop-ups. The pop-ups really that Eat Real Festival really opened the door and got people excited. Between going to the Eat Real Festival, having hundreds of people try my bagel and get very excited and be like, oh my God, I haven't had a bagel like this since I left New York 20 years ago. To the write-up that Janelle Bitker gave me right after that, saying these are the best in all of California. People got
Is she,
very excited.
is she a New Yorker? Who's Janelle? I actually don't know who
Oh, Janelle
Janelle.
Bitker, she's now a food editor at the Chronicle, but
Oh, okay.
she was always on the hunt for the next bagel. So, um, that was a big boon. Yeah, and it just kind of happened. All of it just kind of happened, and I was just I like being very transparent about a lot of things because that's just who I am, and I just wanted to, it's like I'll share that. I was like, here's me making signs today, and I'm like painting signs or whatever, and I don't know, it just all happened, and then people were, they also, because it took so long, there was
Build
all
up.
this buildup. So when we finally opened,
Yeah.
and people were just like, "Oh my God!" Like they'd been waiting forever. Um, so I don't know. Maybe that helped that it took so freaking long to get the doors open. Because it built the suspense. But I wouldn't recommend that as a strategy.
No, no, yeah. Like I said, from watching it from the side, it seemed like a very painful period, and then poof, it just took off. It was
Yeah,
amazing. So, yeah, I thought that was so
that
cool.
felt like a hallelujah because it was definitely the bank account was like just going, dwindling, and it's like we have got like if this doesn't take off and start making money soon, I'm in some big trouble. So it was getting close to it was really getting in the red zone with that. So it was very nice to finally start selling bagels. And yeah, that was a huge relief.
So I have a question related to
Mhm.
that. So I'm pretty sure you crowdfunded some.
Mm.
At some point, I saw some crowdfunding you were doing, but are you getting investments or just endless emails from investors that want to invest, or how's that part going?
Y- like, do you want like the history of what I did, or like what's happening now? What do you mean?
More what's happening now is really what I was wondering.
What's happening now? I actually did a first friends and family round. So I've actually
Yeah.
sold my first bits of equity. I'd hold 100% until recently.
Okay.
Um, I wanted to do that, let people who've been on this journey with me. I'd done everything was debt before.
Okay.
So there were private promissory notes. I did all the crowdfunding I did was all debt. And there's people are still getting, and I did two kind of community rounds and
Which is
two
which is very
crowdfunding rounds.
which is very brave, I find, doing things on debt because it shows a certain confidence that you think you can pay it back. I mean,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well,
which you
part of
did,
it,
which you are obviously, but yeah.
yeah, yes, that it is. But for the first thing, the at the very beginning, I really, I had to sell myself, and I was taking these classes. They're like, well, you should model out projections of how this is going to go. I'm like, well, how the heck am I supposed to know how many bagels I'm going to sell every day? They're like, well, you just need to make it up. And
Right.
that was part of like, no, I'm an engineer. I don't like making up numbers. I want real numbers. So
Yeah.
they're like, well, research all the numbers that you can in terms of costs and equipment and all these, construction costs. Try to get the, closest numbers. And then they're like, start. So I would ask if any bagel shop owner would talk to me. I'd be like, how many bagels do you usually sell on a day? And they'd be like, 1,000 bagels. I'm like, okay. So like that was the plan. But I also said, okay, well, what if we, one of my instructors also said, well, what's the worst? What's the break even? What's the worst that the business can do where it's not actually going bankrupt? Like,
Yeah.
what is that minimum viable operation? And I kind of drafted that out in Excel, and I'm like, well, that's actually really low. Like, but that was saying, okay, it's just me. Like, I'm gonna make all the bagels myself, and like, one person is gonna ring people up, and like, that's it. Um, and then it's okay. Now, what if we sell 1,000 bagels a day? What if we're doing amazing and we sell 2,000 bagels a day? Like, and so I did a bunch of these different scenarios looking at that. Um, and I'm like, this looks actually really good. And I was trying to make this very conservative because, I'm the biggest investor in this company. I'm
Right.
investing like all of myself and all of my money went into it. So, um, I wanted to feel like this was a good investment. So, running all these different scenarios and having it look really promising it was still scary to sign the first lease was just completely terrifying because it's like
Yeah.
this is it. It was all fun and games doing the pop-ups, doing the Eat Real festival. Everything was like super la-di-da. Like there was no downside risk to any of this. And then signing that 10-year commercial lease for a heap of money every month for 10 years was a big deal. And it's like, okay, this is real. And if this doesn't work, it's my ship I'm going down on. And if I have to declare bankruptcy and like lose everything and go crawl back into my old bedroom in my parents' house and
Yeah.
they have to take me in and I figure out what I'm going to do next after this if this doesn't work out. So I really had to sell myself and I did. I'm like, it looks so good. I'm like, I feel like I have to do it. Like it just is begging, like this looks too good to not give it a try. Um, so that's what gave me the wherewithal to then pitch and ask other people for loans. And I was going around asking, and I got all these people on my email list. And I said, who's possibly interested in lending me money and I'll pay you back with interest. And I had people email me who I didn't even know, never even met. And I'd show up at their house I'd make a batch of, make a dozen bagels and walk into their house and get some cream cheese from Trader Joe's and sit down and open it up and they taste the bagels and they're like, these are fantastic. And then they'd write me a check for $5,000 or $10,000. And
Wow.
that was the first round of funding. So it's, gone a long ways from there, but I needed to feel like this was a very solid investment for myself.
So when was that when you're talking about going to visit people and
Oh,
five, $10,000?
that was in the early days, like the between pop up. That was
Between pop-up and
I started getting some people. I think I gotten some funds before I signed the lease, but it was mostly after I signed the lease. Um which was another interesting catch 22 because I felt like, oh, if I don't have I had kind of done the math and estimated it would cost me $600,000 to build the shop.
Right.
And I didn't have $600,000. So I'm like, well, I need to get this money. But people weren't really that interested in lending me money for a business where it's like, well, and then I have to find a space. It was
Right.
kind of too pie in the sky. And one of my best friends was like, yeah, that's a thing. You need to show, you're committed by having a
Intent.
signed lease. But it's like, I don't have the money. Like, I'm going to sign a lease without having the money. But I had to just do it. I had to just like
Yeah.
jump off that cliff. And once I signed the lease, right away, it's like, it just changed the whole thing, because it's now, instead of just like, I have this idea and I'd like to do something, and it's, I have all these visions. It's like, I have a signed lease. This is going to happen. Please lend me money.
Right.
And that, so it was made it, it was much easier to raise the money once I had that signed lease, but it was a really terrifying thing to sign the lease before having the money to build the shop.
So I hesitate to ask, and you can say you don't want to answer, but like
Mhm.
what percent interest were these loans for?
I think it was 10%.
Like
I don't
10% a year or
I
10%? Yeah.
10% annual interest. Mhm.
Okay. I mean, that's not
And
bad, actually. Yeah.
no, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. And I'm like, I want to make it a deal that if I was someone else, I would want to have the other side of this deal. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and be excited about it and make nice money and help get this amazing bagel shop off the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. So,
So
so now is it private equity firms? Do private
no,
equity firms
we
come
don't
to?
have.
No,
There's no
really?
private equity yet. No, not yet. Maybe one day, but no. We have we have no institutional investors at all
No,
yet.
but I
It's
mean,
all.
are they approaching you? Are they asking you to
Oh,
invest?
yeah, I do get. They want to chat. Everyone wants to
Everyone wants to
chat. They
chat.
want to be my new friend. They want to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they're all eager to get to know me, which is
Okay.
interesting.
Okay. And do you think that's going to happen? I mean, I think if you want to
I
go to
don't know. No,
Whole Foods, you may need something like that. But
right. I'm saying, uh, there are just a lot of possibilities out there, and I don't have like an exit plan like a lot of people in especially
uh,
in CPG are like, we're going to do this, and in 5 years we're going to sell, and we're all going to, retire to the Bahamas. So I don't have that. Like, this is fun. I want to build. For me, the fun is like building this empire. This is the fun thing. And I'm not sure where, there's a lot of possibilities out there. I'm not sure exactly where we're going to go. But we just have this, because we're both CPG and in the restaurant world, there's just things. And like, possibly that, there could be a split at some point where the restaurant and splits from the production, and the production could be making the finished six packs and the frozen par bake and selling the frozen par bake to the restaurant. There's just all these, there's
yeah,
a lot there's just a lot of possibilities. And really, for international, it can't be really just us, because we just need to have some kind of licensing or franchising arrangement to go to places like Japan. Like, there's no way.
right.
Um, yeah, I could, I can't even read anything. We're not, we can't be in charge of running, I don't know, actual business in Japan. So I don't know. I'm kind of in it for the ride, and I want to be putting more excellent bagels out. And for me, it's just like, this is this is the challenge, and the fun is like, making it bigger and awesome. And like, can we become like the, greatest bagel empire the world has ever seen? That's the goal. And I'm open to, kind of agnostic as to exactly how it is that we get there, or how that looks at some point. But as long as the bagels are still the super high quality that they are today, and we're not ruining them, like, that's the main thing. I'm like, I do not want to ruin the bagels.
Yeah,
So that's, that's the bottom line for me. Like, how do we grow this and keep the bagels awesome? Because if the bagel isn't awesome, there's no point to the whole thing.
right. Right. That's very cool. It's very cool. Very inspiring too, I must say. And it's great to see such a success story and that continues. So
Mm.
it's very cool. Um, anything else you want to talk about? Anything else I should be asking?
I don't know. No, I don't know. There's a lot of things. It's just, no, we covered a lot of ground. Um,
Are you getting enough sleep? I mean,
I could be, lately now I am. I'm actually kind of recovering in like the social life department a little bit and sleep. I have an amazing team, and that's been, the biggest change from where when I started it was, I was really all alone, and now it's a huge team effort every day. It's amazing. Well, think about it. I'm like, I can't believe what's happening where there's like 15,000 bagels all flying around in different directions, and I don't do any of the day to day anymore. Like,
yeah,
I only get called if there's a problem, if there's something, and I don't even, not even the first person to get called if there's a problem anymore, which is, just incredible.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a little weird. I kind of miss it sometimes.
To feel really needed.
Yeah, I like it really. I like it. I love it when there's something like the slicer is broken and I can go running over with a screwdriver and fix it, and I feel like I've, really done something, because like really most of my time is just like on the computer now, like just, emails, like endless emails, and
Mhm.
yeah, PE firms wanting to talk to me and all sorts of stuff. So it's nice to do, really concrete work sometimes. So I like to say I'm the head mechanic, and
Mhm.
that makes me feel really good. um but yeah, no, there's just a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of questions and a lot of possibilities and a lot of problems to solve. So it keeps me occupied.
This is very cool, and thank you. This was a really interesting conversation for me.
Okay. You're
So
welcome.
I appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're
I'll be in
welcome.
touch. Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye. All good?
Cool.
Okay. All right.
Hmm.
We should
Okay.
log off? Okay. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
This is Brandon, and he, he makes sure it all records as it
Yeah.
should, and yeah. 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 And
Okay.
maybe next time you're in Oakland still, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get together in person. All right.
Sounds good. So
Thank you.
what do you do for, what is the Blue Bottle bakery program that you're helping them with?
They have a commissary kitchen where they make their baked
Okay.
goods. And
Mhm.
so they use parsley for that. That's,
Okay.
I would say, not a main part of our business. We have several segments. One is corporate cafeterias. So Sodexo uses us like for their Google
Okay.
cafeterias or LinkedIn cafeterias and so forth. Then the other is grocers, so like Buy-Right, Molly Stone's. They all use us for they have kitchens and they make
Mhm.
product for their stores, so they use us for
Mhm.
that. And then we started from prepared meals, so some of the very large ones, Cook Unity, Factor, they use us, but of course also smaller
Okay.
ones.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, Blue Bottles was quite from quite early days, and they actually, yeah. I mean, they used to have multiple commissary kitchens. Now they have just one, which I think is in Sacramento,
Mm.
and they use us there. So Good Eggs uses us for their prepared food, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And actually,
Cool.
we're doing a little bit more work with CPG because we have CPG, but we already have CPG customers. We're just poking around to see exactly what is it that CPG needs. Because a lot of the CPG customers are suppliers to our customers, like they supply Buy-Right and they
Mm.
supply Molly
Mhm.
Stones. So it's a nice recommendation, but they have some additional needs. They need better lot tracking. They do, staged production.
Mhm.
So, and we have a lot of those capabilities, but they have to be polished. So
Okay.
that's
Great.
what we do.
Well, it sounds like that's going very well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. All right. Cool. Thank you very much. This is great.